So right now this is 100% factory stock truck. We're doing a Banks performance upgrade to it. We got a Banks performance intake, and we got Justin wearing the camera for your pleasure.
I'm gonna go over what you need to put the intake on your 2017 to 2019 Silverado. It's mainly just gonna be a flathead screwdriver. You gotta remove clamp here, clamp up here, and there's a bolt that holds this down. And when you move it, it all just pops up. It's all popped in. So I'm gonna show you. It's easier to remove it in sections. So we're gonna remove this clamp here. There's a red clip here. You take the red clip, you slide it out. That pops off. That's your mass airflow sensor. Now, take this. This comes out of here. And with a little wiggling, your whole intake comes out. So there's just rubber clips. I'll show you in 1 second to take out. Now, I've had this intake out before because I put some headlights in the truck. You will need to remove these pop clips, like this one right here, that pop in the bottom. You just take a flathead screwdriver and you pop them out. And they come out quite simple. And take this and set this aside. It's easiest if you have a step stool, which I don't have. And this is all the stuff that makes it quiet. Oh, you can see a turbo intake wheel down in there. If you look real close, you can see the intake in your turbo, which is pretty sweet. All right, now the resonator box is held down by 1 1/2-inch 13mm bolt. So you're gonna see it right there. We're gonna take it. Set it aside because I'm going to put it back on even though we're not going to need it. I like to keep all my stock parts because down the road, if you go to trade the truck in, you can sell your aftermarket parts, or some dealerships will give you less money if you got aftermarket parts on your truck. So it's just easier to convert it back to stock and get all the money you can. Once again, you can remove this all in one piece, but I prefer to remove these things in multiple pieces. Just makes your life a little bit easier. Of course, this one doesn't want to make my life easy. Come on. There we go. Come to daddy. So here's what that looks like. This is a resonator. There's a resonator in here. There's a resonator in your air box. So this is also you don't hear your turbo noise, and it also is there to rob you of that power. So we're gonna throw the intake on now. This is how far back you need to get it. Pretty simple. All right, I'm gonna show you what comes out of the box. This is the Banks intake. So first, look at that, Duramax spot for your mass airflow sensor, which we are going to need to remove from the stock intake. It doesn't come with one. Here is our huge air filter.
Damn! There's big, healthy, husky, fluffy, and damn!
Yeah. Oh, this thing's huge and oily. I got the oiled filter.
Do some of them come unoiled?
You can buy it unoiled as well. It's not a cleanable filter like the oiled one,
I see.
which I will be cleaning it quite often. All right, so here are all the parts that this came with. So you're gonna notice some big changes between the two. This guy's gonna go in here, so this filter fills the hole. You go like that. You're gonna have your intake pipe go into the filter. So, what's to be said about this intake is, if you look at it, one, this hole's much bigger. So this is your ram air. So anybody with an LP5 has ram air through their hood. And two, you get air through your fender too. And if you look at the GM, they intentionally make this hole smaller in the air box between the two. And the reason is, it's for efficiency. So warm air burns easier. So during the cold months, it actually is supposed to give you better fuel mileage, but we're here for America, not fuel mileage. And here we go. We're gonna install this thing.
Have some trouble there, bud?
Yeah. Easy. I'll hold the box.
Some dikes.
All right.
Cut it.
You're gonna take dikes and you're gonna cut it. Yeah, cut it to fit. Doesn't matter if there's a little air gap. little gap, but we'll be fine. All right, so we got to take the stock intake tray out, which is this right here. It's 4 bolts that are not 11 millimeter. They're going to be 10 millimeters. These bolts are quite long. All right, so this is your stock intake tray. It's gonna sit. And here's the new intake. So I'm assuming those bolts just get reused. I'm gonna take this MAF sensor connector out of the way, and then she's a big one, but she fits. Perfect. So now we're going to take our 4 bolts that we just took out of our stock tray, and that's going to hold down your new intake. Now the intake sits right down in the tray, so that's why that tray needs to come out. It sits right down into the fender, gives you a bigger hole to breathe through. You can see down in there, you can actually see the ground, so you get a little bit of fresh air through here. Banks did a good job literally making everything functional, so every hole that the factory used is getting fresh air through, so the hood gets fresh air from inside the fender and fresh air from down by the fog lights. You do need to jostle this around a bit. Get it fit. I know it's hard for you guys to see, but there's just 4 holes and they line up perfectly. Perfect. Nice and tight. You can see where the factory scoop gets air and forces it down into the intake. I'm glad they retained that because that's actually pretty significant. So now we're going to take our Banks filter straight here. And we're going to shove her in there. Fits nice like. Now it sits right there, and we're going to work on putting our intake tube in. But before we can put the intake tube in, we do need to retrieve our MAF sensor from our stock air box. Okay, now that I got the T15 Torx out, your MAF sensor, she pulls out just like that. They can only go in one way, so don't worry about orientation or anything. The bolts are offset. Careful not to over tighten these. You can damage your MAF sensor if you do over tighten your MAF sensor screws. Do it by hand, not with an impact drive or anything like that. I know some of you guys love your power tools, but this is one of the cases I would not be using one. This guy's gonna slide right on. So this is my first time doing this, so I'm going to suggest you put the air filter on before try to put the intake on. Typical backyard mechanic form, I've failed to read the instructions and I refuse to do so. Okay, tight. This filter just kind of slides into the box. It's not actually permanently mounted. Goes just like that. Good seal all the way around. Now we're going to tighten up our clamps up top. All right, quick tech tip. For easy installation of these clamps, you can use a 8mm socket on your wrench or your electric impact. Just don't over tighten them. MAF sensor plugs in just like so. Put that back together. Your Banks intake is now installed. Not too hard. This took me about 20 minutes to install. And we're going to move on to the Banks Derringer tuner.